Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the April meeting of the Town of Philipstown Conservation Board. We're going to skip over the minutes because we don't have a large enough quorum for everybody present to pass the February minutes. I'd like to just take a break for a second, and unfortunately, MJ Martin is not here. She resigned from the board last month, and I would like to thank her on behalf of the board and myself for 19 years of dedicated service. We have had correspondence from Nancy Montgomery from the Putnam County Legislature. She is our representative for Philipstown, and it is a letter about the proposed herbicide treatment within Manitou Marsh. There's nothing that we can do right now because the proposal has not been, been no application that's been given to us at this point. So we've had other letters from neighbors on this. And once we actually do have an application, then we can address that. So with that said, let us move to the first item, which is Vallone, which is 77 Route 9 in Cold Spring, which is a planning board referral.
Good evening. Jason Snyder with Beatty & Watson representing the applicant, Nick Vallone. He has a amended site plan application in front of the planning board for a minor project to construct two 28 by 30 storage garages for his event rental, like a party rental business, which is it's a service business, and it's permitted use, and that building is a mixed. The existing building is a mixed use building, and it has two dwelling units and office space in there. He's not planning to do anything with the interior of that existing structure. He just has his, now instead of Comfort Master or the construction company, Pisa or whatever it was, it's just him and a bookkeeper. He has a truck, and he's going to be storing tents, chairs, what have you, in those buildings and making deliveries himself. It's a small business. It's not, they're not going to be trucks moving in and out of there like there was. So yeah, he wants to construct these two garages over the existing gravel parking lot. So there's going to be no additional impervious surface. You can see where all this is gravel parking. So the new buildings are going to sit in that parking lot, and we'll remove whatever. There's a shed here. It used to be the pool. I believe it used to be the pool. There used to be a pool here when it was just a house before, like in the yeah. And so that's going to be gone. So we're getting rid of that, and then whatever impervious surface is around the back closest to this this swale here.
So the turquoise lines.
That's the 100-year floodplain.
Okay, because when I was looking at the survey last night, it looks like there's a water course that's right behind the garages. It's marked 15 feet away.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was it doesn't have any flow. I mean, I wouldn't call it a water course. It's a ditch with stagnant water. There's no flow. There's no flow. it's left over. I think the state kept that. They used to be at the end. That ditch used to be at the end of, all this used to be Harold Lyons' yard. And that was just a ditch at the end of the yard. Then they kept it. It doesn't have any flow. I mean, you can
Right.
call it a water course, but
Because when I looked at the map last night, I was saying to myself, okay, we're 15 feet away from that, and I can only use
Right.
what's on the map. Why are we not pushing the garages further to the north? We would never get 100 feet away, but we could certainly get 50 feet or more. Has the planning board done a site visit, or is they planning a site visit on this?
they wanted more information before they planned a site visit,
Okay.
which hopefully we have for this
You
month.
don't have any pictures. I'm sort of curious to see,
I
water
have
course
on my phone. Yeah, I can show you.
Okay.
It's
yeah, I think we're gonna have to, but you understand, our initial trepidation of where it's,
yeah. I mean it's I don't know. I should have downloaded them obviously, but yeah, that's the ditch.
yeah, it does look more like a swell.
Where's the outflow for Barrett Pond?
The outflow for Barrett Pond is at the north end of the site. So this is the this is the outflow. This is a regulated. This is the floodway. So it goes under this.
Under the house.
It goes under the house. So it goes under this house over here. There's a house over here. It goes under that house.
You missed that one.
What's that?
When they built that, you missed that one.
So here's the outlet for Barrett Pond, right? There's the spillway. It goes under this house. It goes under this driveway and under the road, and then it comes out here on the north end of this property. This is the multi-use, the existing structure where Lisa Brown and Comfort Master was. And then here's the outlet for the Barrett Pond here, and then it goes under a culvert, and then it goes under Philipstown. It goes under the plaza.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the outlet. This is not the outlet for this swale captured water when this was a road that went through here, Old Highland Old Albany Post
Right.
Road. It captured water coming from this direction here. This is the old 2003 swell here. So it came from this way and then goes under Valenti here. So it's two separate water courses. The outlet is, here's like I said, here's these straight lines here. That's the floodway, and then this is the floodplain.
So it's basically a stormwater runoff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, from the pond, it's a little bit more than that. Unfortunately, it's been channelized and buried in spots.
Yeah.
But whatever. I think we need to do a site visit, just to look at it, and I think we can give just basically a very short memo to the planning board prior to their meeting that we'd like to do a site visit to determine, is this a drainage ditch? Is it which it probably is. Is it anything of significance? Possibly not.
Yeah.
And then we can figure out from there where to go.
I know this area was highlighted in our Putnam County Emergency Management Plan as being an area that we'd be looking into for funding in problem storm events. So we should also look back at that and then see if that can lead kind of design standards that you propose there. Because I think that area in some of the larger hurricanes had ponded pretty significantly and affected those properties. And it was identified on our emergency management plan, so, now I'm kind of getting my bearings on what that vegetated wetland is there. It's kind of more of a retention pond off the road, yeah.
Yeah, well, you got this, I mean, it is all in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So you have this little piece here, that's the access road. So you got here's the retention pond, and then there's an access road that goes like this, that they use to clear this out. the state the county comes through, because this is a county road. The county comes through and they clear all this out, and that's the road that they use. And so.
Maybe we can add that information in. It might actually benefit you to move things up a little further, depending on what they're saying, if they're amenable to that. Just even based off of that.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason why we have it pushed back is to get the most, to be able to maneuver around here. I mean, we
But
could.
you said large trucks are not going in.
Right,
It
he
would
just
be
has
box trucks.
he just has a panel truck.
Right.
He just has one. He has he does have a bunch there now, but that's because he bought the business that he bought had a bunch of them, and he's selling them. So there is a bunch of equipment there that he's not going to use. Just full disclosure. So.
So, as I said, I think we need to do a site visit. So I think it would be nice to find out from the planning board, are they going to do a site visit or not? And if they are, then we should just coordinate it and do it together.
So the buildings are gonna be a concrete slab on grade?
I believe it's just going to be on timber, on just right on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah, I was assuming they were going to be small pole barns.
Yeah. There's no slab, there's no foundation, from what I understand. They're just going to sit on 6x6, beams, timbers.
Anybody else have questions or comments?
Not right now.
Okay,
Okay.
so, all right, so then let's move on to your other project, which is Ficarra on Route 90. And let's handle that as two separate items. Let's talk about the garage first, which is permitting for us, versus the pool second, which is a planning board referral essentially. Right? Isn't it a referral?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I believe they're both they're
Required.
both,
I thought it was partially also because of steep slopes. Fine. Because it is within, so that's, the whole site is constrained, and it is within 100 feet, I believe, of the water course.
So I guess, does anybody have any questions regarding the site walk, first of all, or anything to add from that?
Essentially, Bob, you were the only one that wasn't there, though I think you've been at the site previously. The homeowners would like to build a garage that is probably about 20 feet from the stream itself. The only other options would be not to build a garage that's in front of the house, which I assume that they don't want to do, though somebody did that down the road from you, and it's actually pretty cool. But anyway, wherever the garage would be, it would be within a wetland buffer. So we had previously, with the previous homeowner, looked at the site, and there was supposed to be a remediation plan for some damage they had done with tree cutting, shrub removal, and so on. Some of it was done. I'm not sure it was done that well. So the banks of the stream are degraded. And my thought, but I want to hear everybody else's opinion, my feeling is that I personally would have no problem with them citing the garage, give or take where it is, in return for stabilizing the stream, both structurally as well as with plantings, which
Yeah.
we talked about on the
So,
site.
yeah, I did bring some, just to give you a better idea, some printouts of what I was thinking with regard to the live staging. I mean, I'm sure Max has seen this, but these are all standard PVC.
Oh, that's what you think about it.
Yeah.
Cheryl, do you have the photos handy? If not, I'm just gonna hand my phone to Bob, because he's the only one that hasn't seen. I'm gonna just switch for a moment. Let's go to the next one, please. So you can see, Bob, where basically we're eroding right in.
Yeah.
And, you know, eventually something's gonna collapse, and then enough water will push its way through and just do, you know, more degradation. And the thought was that let's figure out a way to stabilize the bank in the most natural way possible.
Yeah, I mean, to really solve this issue, even though it's such an intermittent water course, and it's pretty entrenched. So you would have to not only do what kind of you're proposing here with a crib wall or this riprap planting, but you'd have to laterally change the slope on either side and kind of redevelop that whole stream channel and create a base probably, and grade it back out and replant that area with, you know, native willows or whatever or dogwoods. But the other concern that I would have with this is also the contact to groundwater. I mean, I don't know how often that site actually even flows, you know? So I don't know how easy it will be to actually establish plants that are somewhat dependent on, you know, a lot of groundwater to thrive in that area. I don't know. So it'd have to be a balance too, because you don't want to, you know, there's so much infrastructure near there during a really bad storm with that home. You don't want to, you also want to be able to install something there that's not going to destroy what they're putting in, or add to a more property loss. So,
Because it is both a stream and drainage for 9D.
yeah. Yeah.
So there's not currently a lot of flow in there? It's
Extremely
varies?
intermittent.
Yeah,
Yeah, but when there is flow, you could see.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, when there is flow, there's flow.
Okay,
From across the road even, there's a big hill.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would recommend some sort of grading in that area to establish a more gradual slope and then there's something also called fascines
Yeah.
and
yeah,
soil lifts.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, you could do soil lifts with fascines in there, and I mean, the site is pretty close to the house. You could water that area pretty frequently and see.
Yeah.
If you really wanted to create a naturalized channel. But that would be, I feel like that'd be a really positive trade-off, and it would help protect that area too on the property.
I mean,
How
when
long
is,
of an area are we talking about stabilizing? The length of the property, or?
I don't know the
Yeah, I mean,
distance.
till you get past the house, I would say.
yeah, because all of a sudden, once
'Cause
you get
it's
near
pretty deep along the property line.
the
And then it
house
just
and
peters
where the-
out, you know?
where the proposed swimming pool would be, once you get past that, then
It all flattens out anyways.
yeah, it tends to level off. I mean, when is the proposed construction, you know, when would the homeowners like to build the garage?
You guys are involved in this one too? You should have told us.
Part of the problem is that that stream comes down, and makes it turn really fast.
Yeah,
And you can see where he's jumping up over that.
yeah.
So I don't want to delay anything, but I'm inclined that we need a little bit more in the way of plans before we can vote on a permit.
Yeah, I would say, and also like, we don't want to stabilize this whole section, and I think we had, I don't remember which property, we had one issue where like, okay, this property was stabilized, but then the neighbor's property was just going to become the next big problem, right? So we have to.
We did something very similar to this over at the farm there on Jesus. Glenwood. At the Glenwood farm where the houses are for the students. And you had the stream coming there off of that upper pond, coming down, and we did a whole revetment. I don't know whatever happened to that.
It didn't go through.
Yeah, but we had planned, and that was approved by the DEC and everything. So we did something similar with that, and with the stone and the live stakings,
Yeah,
and some regrading.
yeah.
So I don't know how everybody else feels. My inclination is to have you come back with a plan,
Sure.
right? I mean, I think this is eminently permittable. You know,
Okay.
so it's just the devil is in the details.
Sure.
And have we exhausted all the alternative locations for the garage, just to put that to bed?
It's really none, right?
Yeah, and wherever we put it, it is going to be within a buffer. So, and the homeowners don't want to put the garage in front of the house.
There's also a well there too.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand it, and I think if, you know, by stabilizing the intermittent stream, I think that's a big win for everybody. So we'll see you back next month. So let's go to part two, which is
Okay.
the pool. I have a terrible photograph in there of the back of the house. I think you can use the arrow to. Just use.
Yeah, just use the arrows, Cheryl.
There you go.
That's not bad, is it?
It is. It is. So, I mean, this comes under steep slopes. We have a radically changed landscape that was done by the previous homeowners, and they'd like to build a pool. So I think, you know, the two questions that I have is, actually three. One is stormwater prevention, pollution prevention during construction. Two are the retaining walls as they exist now, engineered well enough to hold a pool. And three, the biggest is, when I say what type of pool, I'm not talking about the size. Is it chlorine? Is it salt water? Is it a natural pool? If it's the first two particularly, but even the third, if there is an overflow event, we need to protect the intermittent stream.
Where, in relation to this photo, would the pool be? On the top of the hill?
All of the whole.
Would be the
Basically where the second wall is.
Yeah.
What you're looking
Seems
at.
a few plants, so it would be, yeah.
I mean, all the retaining walls would have to be redone.
Right.
All the retaining walls would be redone.
And do you see that as being masonry, or do you see that as being poured concrete and then maybe faced with something?
Yeah, poured concrete faced with
Right.
something.
So thus the question becomes, what do we do about overflow or failure? I think failure is the less likely, but overflow from big storms.
Well, and draining down, sometimes you have to drain down, but you can prepare for that. It's, you
But
know,
where do we drain to
right.
without going into the stream?
The septic's right below that too.
Yeah. So I think that's a concern of ours. I don't know if anybody else has any other concern.
I mean, there is an area, because the stream goes off onto the neighbor's, onto the other property, and there is an area that's unencumbered by wetland buffer. That's a little bit flatter. So we could do some type of,
Can you show us the site plan one more time?
Bios.
I don't know if that's on there.
So like a store, we'll call it a,
yeah, some type of
Storm.
bio retention.
yeah, I mean, that would make sense.
All that stone could be reused to do the thing up top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but from the steep slope standpoint here, I mean, doing any kind of work here, right, we're gonna have to go back to the planning board, right?
No, we can permit it. It's not a large enough disturbance. We can, you know, and normally we wouldn't want to see this, but it's already a disturbed site. So, you know, by denying it, I don't see any benefit. You know, it's a disturbed and manicured site.
So here's a little portion that's, do we have it here? Yeah. So here's a portion here that we could do something. That's probably in the, I don't know,
And just
10% range.
What's the size of the pool?
do we have a size on
Probably like 12 by 30.
12 by 30 in depth.
it? I mean, we're showing it to, whatever we had, we're showing it to scale on here.
Yeah,
It
I'm
wasn't
just
that
trying
deep,
to-
right? 5 feet.
Right, I'm just trying to,
Also, the pools we're building and we're proposing here is a cartridge filter, it doesn't require backwash. We use ozone and ultraviolet lights for sanitation, so it doesn't need chlorine or salt.
okay, so that's a help. But I still think that we would want to contemplate some type of retention,
Yeah.
you know?
I think, what did we do for the one pool off of Lane Gate? I think they put a curtain drain that just drained
Yeah.
out. And if we did the same thing here,
And then we also did that one on, Luzmira Lane?
yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. We did, infiltration. I think we
Yeah.
did Caltex.
Yeah.
Did they ever do that? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, they did, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did Caltex on that.
So that would work here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I really don't want to harp too much on the stream restoration portion of this either. I think there is mitigation potential here, but it's not extreme. You know, I think you brought that up. So it's really going to be about stabilizing the property, stabilizing the banks to a capacity during a big storm so that garage doesn't eventually get eroded into, and then adding native plants there, which will help sheet flow and then add to the property as well. So,
Yeah, as well as by doing that properly, it would not put the septic field in danger, because if there was a major event,
yeah.
like in 2011, I'm not sure what would come down that. So, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm interested where in this drawing is the original retaining wall, or location of the original retaining wall? Is the edge of the pool sitting on it, and then you build out from there?
Well, the lower wall is here, and we're matching that.
Okay. So that's built up.
And then the middle wall here is shown, you can see it through there. There's the middle wall.
Yeah.
So here's the lower one, the middle one, and then the upper one is here.
So you're building everything up to create like a patio around the pool?
Yeah, well, I have this section through here. Here's a section through the site. and maybe I can make it bigger, but here's the upper retaining wall, and here's the middle retaining wall is right in here. You can see where it drops, the existing grade drops. I can make it more clear, but the middle wall is here, and then we're just matching the lower wall is in here, but not as high. And then we have the septic system in here.
So you would be rebuilding all 3 walls?
I think, yeah, we'd have to.
Okay,
Well,
that's what I thought.
the middle wall would just go away. There would be
Right.
no more middle wall. You would just have a lower wall and an upper wall. And, you know, the upper wall could probably be masonry, because that's all just sheer ledge rock. I don't think it would be too difficult to deal with that. And then this lower wall would be holding up the pool and the patio. So basically, you'd have one. The upper wall would it's just going to be ledge.
Right.
But I mean, you know, we're gonna.
And I'm assuming the pool is constructed, it's not prefab, like, you know,
No, it'll be constructed in place. Yeah.
right, because there's no way to get something down there. So,
I mean, do you feel another meeting is warranted? Or would you want to work conditionally, approve a conditional permit? We can work together to put together a restoration plan for that small section behind the garage.
for the garage, I'm comfortable with doing a conditional permit. I don't know how everybody else feels.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
The pool, I think we need a little bit more detail.
With well, I mean, we can condition it with the added, the Caltex, you'd have to just send that plan back to us, and then we would,
Well, the question, I almost think there should be 2 permits.
Because they're going to be doing them at 2 completely different. You know, they're not going to be at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think they should be 2 permits, so if one gets hung up for some reason, which I don't see, you know, they are really very different.
Okay.
So,
so the conditional would be the garage and the restoration.
right,
Planting.
Right.
And stream stabilization.
so is everybody comfortable with that?
How does that work? When does the applicant have to show their remediation of the banks of that stream? Is that before or after
Well, we'd issue a conditional
Same.
permit with the condition that they'd have to provide that plan.
that plan? Okay.
And then then I'll review it, I can circulate it to Andy.
Right.
You guys can take a look at it.
You know, and if there are deficiencies, then we ask for changes, and if it looks good, we can let them go with it.
But they don't need to come back to another meeting to
Yeah,
address those.
I think that does, I think that's a great idea, I think that makes sense.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
with that said, do I have a motion to issue a conditional permit for the garage and which includes restoration of the stream?
I'll make a motion to issue a conditional permit for the garage and the stream remediation.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, and
Thank you.
Next month for the.
next month for the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, next is, gotta look at the right agenda, is William and Laura Cumming, 71 South Mountain Pass. Isn't that South Mountain Pass spur?
Yes, sir.
Why?
You got him starting on Tuesday, now he's here again.
I'm Nick Lissicatos, Lissicatos Construction, representing William and Laura Cumming. They have, a large parcel of land off of South Mountain Spur. The property has been divided, and what they'd like to do, rather than drive by the front house constantly, the red line is a overgrown road, if you will. Road might be a big word at that point, but it is a road that they've been using. Near the back, it gets pretty much impassable at this point. But they'd like to upgrade it and make it a proper road that they could use, following the contours that are there. We need a couple crossover pipes, and they're indicated by the couple black lines. I went to the building department to see if there's any permitting, and there was none on the building department's part, but we didn't meet, because the road is approximately 800 feet, we didn't meet the land disturbance. We would rough the road in approximately 16 feet wide. It would ultimately finish around, 13, 14 feet with some shoulders. There will be some land sloping. We're trying to do as much of a cut and fill as we can with what's there, cleaning up, especially on the backside. There's some earth to be moved that we're just gonna pull down into the valley and make it a proper drive.
And Max and I did a site visit, and 90% of the road is there. There's one area that the slope needs to be lessened,
Correct.
and then there's one big rock,
Yes,
know,
there
which-
is.
which needs to be
It's for sale if you want it.
hammered apart.
It's probably pretty good money there.
Yeah, if you can move it.
So,
What kind of road is it? You said the road is there. Is it like gravel or?
I'd call it a woods road.
Yeah, it's a yeah.
I mean, it's a very good and drivable woods road, even without four-wheel drive if it wasn't wet, except for the rock that's 2/3 of the way
Right.
up. So I guess they built it from one side and came from the other.
So there's no wetland issues with this permit. It's solely the fact that this type of work doesn't need any other board oversight. But since the level of ground disturbance is at a certain threshold, we would be the board that would review it, or your board would review it.
So there's no, it doesn't, I thought there was some overlap, but there's no
No, I
wetland
went out,
measure.
again, like Andy said, I went out to the site twice, once with Andy, once I just met Peter there. After looking at the plans that Nick provided, they're far enough away. There's a small intermittent water course, well over 100 feet down in a valley away from there, so. And Andy, you concurred, right, when you were out there?
Yeah. So does this come under a minor permit?
I think it would be a standard permit just based on the amount of ground disturbance, and that's why we wanted just to have this presentation done, so we could just make sure that we were following the process correctly, but I don't see it as a major impact at all.
So if we were to issue a permit, I think it would be a conditional permit, because what we still need to know is exactly where the drainage culverts are gonna be, and what form of temporary SWIP you're doing in terms of erosion control.
You have the plan you sent.
I kind of marked it, but again, so we're gonna put silt fence up along the whole perimeter. That's the black dash line. And then there's 1, 2, 3, I think 3, what we're proposing crossover pipes, which is, it's just where they lay out on the road as far as grading wise, to try to eliminate as much erosion as possible. The inside of the hill where it says partial A right there in the middle, that's an uphill part, and then the other side will go gravity away from the road. So the uphill part, we're gonna, there'll be a stabilized gutter in there to catch as much runoff as we can. But the rest of the land is controlled and the water goes the other direction, so we don't really have a lot coming down.
And the hammering of the rock, are you just gonna pull it off right away, or are you gonna be stockpiling it on site?
We will hammer it, and then I'll probably use it in that area to change some slopes and use it as a road base.
Questions, comments?
So the rationale for why you want to do this is to make it easier to get into the property? or-
I believe there's a conversation about possibly selling one of the houses. And right now, the driveway drives across the face of it. So they'd be able to come around the other side and access it.
Yeah, so here's a much small, this is a very big house. That's the other house. So I'm assuming that they would be
Stopping the driveway,
right
correct,
there.
correct.
And for the big house, the mansion will call it, big house approach.
So go
Yeah.
around.
And I'm guessing that they felt, because I'm assuming who would ever buy the smaller house is most likely gonna expand it, and they really wouldn't like to have, somebody else driving past their house
Front
all the
yard,
time.
correct.
So,
Yeah, and I know another point just to mention, that there was another proposed access to that home, but the amount of land clearing and disturbance that would be happening there is substantially more in terms of impacting unimpacted forest currently, so
So for this, no trees have to be cut, right?
very few, right?
Yeah, there's
if at all.
just a couple, based on sloping and stuff, there's a couple, but no, not really. Where the other one, they talked about proposing, you can see it on the bottom where it says see detail A, that is undisturbed woods, and the approach to the house is poor. It's a rock pile, it requires extensive hammering and tree cutting, so they're really eyeing to opt not to do that. It's gonna wreck the land there.
I mean, it looks like the road that we're talking about has been mildly maintained, because there's no brush growing in it, no,
Correct.
you know, brambleberries and what have you.
What is that road from? When was it originally made, or?
It's been there, as far as I know, as far as the owner's concerned, it's been there forever. It's an old carriage road, I guess, that they've had access to their property. So they've been using it, but, they don't use it in the winter because it's not really plowable. So we're trying to make it into a proper road.
So we comfortable with this?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion?
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I'll send you that
Have
permit.
a good evening.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, at least I have two other short items. I did a site visit to Manitoba, which this should be a minor permit. Ultimately, they want to dredge the pond, but prior to dredging, the New York DEC is gonna require them to do 3 2-meter borings within the pond to see what material is in there, whether it could be left on site or whether it is considered hazardous and it needs to be removed. So that should be done as a minor permit unless anybody else has any other thoughts on it. The dredging project itself, I think, is quite a ways in the future because it's gonna be an expensive project because of where that pond is situated. If anybody's seen it, it's part of a quarry. There's no wonderful access.
So this is the house? kind of-
It's right by the house,
Right,
yes.
that's
It's
that
that,
nice,
it's that
they wanna
pond.
dredge that?
Yeah, because it's been filled in from storms tremendously, and ideally they'd like to get it back to a depth of about 2 meters, about 6 feet. If they went that far, it's a lot of material. It could be as much as 3,000 cubic yards. I mean, it's a lot. But the first step, so the way they would do the borings is they'd either use a small platform or a john boat, and they would take out, I'm not sure they're getting down necessarily 2 meters because they might be hitting rock before that. But we'll see,
Was it ever 2 meters?
we'll see.
And that would probably be reviewed solely by myself, just because of the nature of the permit, and they're waiting to get DEC permits back before they come before the town for the minor permit, so we don't have anything in hand yet.
Right.
But that's where we
And
stand.
when they do the coring, what are they looking for? Hazardous materials or just something that
Yeah.
over the years that wasn't unknown
Yeah,
about?
they're basically looking at hazardous materials. So, and I think it's being done more and more regularly, but I think perhaps the other red flag on this was a quarry, though it hasn't been mined in probably 50, 60 years, maybe 70. So I think it was just a stone quarry. So we'll see where we go from there. And you can jump in too, Max. We have Walter Hoving. Essentially, what we found out from Interfluve, their engineering consultants, is that there was not a coordinated review done under CEQA, so the town is obliged to do a review. And Max and I feel that the best way to do it is to get a peer review of both their design and, most importantly, the hydraulic modeling they did of the flooding pre and post project. And we have found a consultant to do that. And from there, we need to work with the town board to set up what would be an adequate escrow account for this, and then get Walter Hoving to agree on the sum. We might, and this is a question for the town attorney, so that this could be done timely if we do approve it, or are we gonna have to hold a special meeting to set, to get an agreement on what the escrow account should be? And obviously, Walter Hoving is gonna have to agree to the escrow account.
And would that also cover that pipe downstream that might have to be replaced?
Where we are, you're talking about what's called the culvert. I look at it as a bridge on Avery Road.
Yeah.
While Walter Hoving got a grant from the state of, $450,000, it is nowhere near enough to expand that, on top of the fact that the bridge itself is constrained. You have private property on both sides. So it would require either an easement or eminent domain. And the town, I don't think, wants to get into eminent domain, and I know they definitely, since the bridge was rebuilt not that long ago, are not going to fund a project that would be in the 7 figures. So, what we want to know is that the modeling is accurate, that it's not going to increase flooding, and hopefully it will improve flooding. The dam itself is compromised. So, the other alternative would be to rebuild the dam, but they wouldn't get funding from the state. The funding that this is coming from is essentially a fund to add connectivity for fish and other wildlife, So that's where we stand right now.
Yeah, I guess just to bring up Andy's point again about the special meeting, Walter Hoving is planning on attending the May meeting. And I had brought up to Andy about holding a meeting in between now and that May date so that we can discuss with Walter Hoving's representatives being present our scope of work for the third-party consultant and then the additional escrow costs, agree to that. And from what the third-party consultant has written us back about, it would take them about 2 weeks to complete the review. And by that time, they probably too would be prepared to come to the May meeting and answer any questions that we would have and present kind of a summary memo to both Walter Hoving and the board. So Cheryl, do you know if the board would need to vote on a special meeting at a public meeting? Yeah. Like we could set one with enough, enough notice?
Yeah, we would have to give, 2 weeks' notice in theory, or 10 days? 10 days.
So maybe we can circulate, if you agree, I think it might be beneficial. I mean, it gives them we essentially are giving the applicant, I think we would reach out to the applicant, gauge their interest in that, and then we could
Right.
reach out to the board. Just keep this timeline progressing, because I know that they're on an accelerated construction schedule. They want to try to get this to construction this summer, fall, I'm guessing,
Right.
so.
And this is not a small escrow account.
Will there be opportunity for public comment? Because I know a lot of people are concerned about that.
Yeah,
Neighbors
I
and
mean,
such.
we've been in discussions with the town attorney. While we do not have to hold a public hearing, I think in terms of transparency and getting public input, I think that we should hold a public hearing.
Thank you.
So, any other questions on Walter Hoving as we stand right now?
So we'll reach out to the applicant, gauge their
Yeah.
interest on that meeting, and
Yep.
then we'll try to set the escrow.
Yep.
If they agree, we'll set the escrow amount.
Yeah.
If that work was to take place down there as proposed, when would that have to happen? Late summer?
It has to be before the end of September to meet the
Before
Ds.
the end of September?
All in-stream work has to be before the end of September.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
okay, does anybody have anything else?
The only stormwater update I have is that our environmental consulting firm that we hired to do the MS4 mapping for our Speedy's requirements is starting tomorrow to start collecting the data on our stormwater infrastructure, mainly in Continental Village. So that was noticed publicly by the town board last month, but now the actual work is happening starting tomorrow. So they'll be in the field for at least 2 days and then reassess to start work again, probably next week as well.
Are they only gonna be mapping drains, or are they gonna look at, for some of these, the cutoffs on some of the roads where the water runs off, but there is no existing drain?
Yeah, it's all stormwater infrastructure, so pipe connections, outfalls, the condition of the, like, catch basins.
So even like things that have naturally formed that were never planned, but
Yeah,
because, you know, water's still flowing that way, so it's created its own place, they'll be looking at those as well.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's a list of criteria that we have to capture for the permit, but we might be able to glean a lot of that off of what ends up coming out of this, so.
Because I remember when I did it, there was an awful lot of those.
Yeah,
I bet.
yeah, it's an extensive list, so that we have to capture, so they're ready to go, so. We can check in, I mean, I'm happy to share anything with you too, you can check in and
Yeah,
add whatever.
okay.
Okay, with that, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Make that motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.